Xbox announces a big feature that will boost performance. Welcome everybody and thank you for joining me. So there is a few things to go over today. Let's just start off with a boost for the Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S consoles. If you have been following along with this channel for a while now, you might have heard me speak about this before, Fidelity FX. I've spoken about this specifically in the context of Minecraft and ray tracing on the Xbox Series X, but today I want to discuss this in a more broader sense because this feature has now officially been added to the current generation consoles. Now Fidelity FX ties directly into ray tracing. It is not the sole purpose of the existence of Fidelity FX, but in the scope of ray tracing it does play an important part. Now I know most people already knows this, but Nvidia had a bit of a head start on AMD when it comes to ray tracing. Now when Nvidia added ray tracing to their GPUs, they noticed that it was extremely taxing to the point where you could sometimes drop more than half of your frame rates and make the games completely unplayable, and that is when Nvidia came up with a solution called DLSS. Now DLSS is a technology used by Nvidia to render games at lower resolutions, then uses artificial intelligence and machine learning to upscale the frames of the game to a higher resolution, and this allows PCs with compatible GPUs running games to take advantage of the tech and hit higher resolutions and frame rates than usual, even when resource intensive effects like ray tracing are enabled. Then AMD started to add ray tracing to their GPUs on PC and on console, and they had to come up with their own solution to drop frame rates with DXR enabled, and that solution was Fidelity FX, the DLSS alternative. Now Fidelity FX is a piece of AI powered software that is able to offer a number of adaptive graphic enhancements to developers to include in their games, and that include variable shading, image sharpening, ambient occlusion, screen space reflection, and many more. So Tom's Guide reported the Xbox Series X just got a healthy graphics update, and it is thanks to AMD's Fidelity FX technology, which has just been added to the Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S game development kit. AMD also spoke about this at GameStack Live last week, where AMD announced that selected AMD Fidelity FX effects are now available for the Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S, and this means that it will be even easier than before for developers to create cross-platform games with AMD's Fidelity FX now available in the latest Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S development kit. And to start, AMD is making Fidelity FX contrast adaptive sharpening, variable shading, and shadow denoiser available. So that is going to allow for a massive boost in performance, especially when it comes to frame rates on the console. Ray tracing is just so taxing sometimes to the point where it might not even be possible to add it for some games. So this is going to allow for a massive boost in performance, especially when it comes to ray tracing on the console. Ray tracing is just too taxing sometimes to the point where it might not even be possible to add it to some games because the frame rates will be so low. And I've spoken a lot about this, but Minecraft is a great example. I've been saying for months now that we will probably only get ray tracing for Minecraft on the console once Fidelity FX is available, and DLSS is what makes it possible on the PC, and Fidelity FX is what will make it now possible on the console. And Fidelity FX is a big boost, and the increase in performance it gives you should not be underestimated. Those who game on PC already knows this, but whether you are gaming with AMD graphics card and DLSS enabled or with an AMD graphics card and Fidelity FX enabled, it does make a very big difference. Fidelity FX does more than just a simple frame rate boost. It allows you to enable features like path tracing and ray tracing and many more features that will improve your visuals and your resolution, and it allows you to do that without having to sacrifice any frame rates, and I think that is very impressive. But speaking of a frame rate boost, Xbox just announced that another 13 games on Xbox Game Pass will be getting a boost of up to 120 frames per second. PC Mag reported that with the launch of the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S last year, Microsoft promised to make old games look and play better with the new hardware. The backwards compatibility team developed an FPS boost boost feature to achieve that, which works by nearly doubling the frame rates on selected titles. Better frame rates means a smoother gameplay experience, but sometimes at the cost of a slight resolution drop. And the games that can now take advantage of the FPS boost is an impressive catalog, starting all the way from Battlefield 1 to Titanfall 2. But there is just one thing to note: with the exception of Sea of Solitude, all these games now have 120Hz support on the Xbox Series X. The same is true for the Xbox Series S, but with one key difference. In order for 120Hz to be achieved, the resolution of some games need to be dropped. So the Series S owners won't have 120Hz support enabled by default. They need to turn it on if they don't mind taking a resolution hit. As for Sea of Salute, it gets 60Hz support on both consoles, and that is still a very impressive boost as Xbox continue to add to their library of games that receive an FPS increase. But on that note, this is where I'm going to end it. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you would like to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing, and as always, please remember to stay safe, wash your hands, don't touch your face, and I hope to see you again soon.